ludicrous things. But, you know, I think Dan said that, you know, people have forgotten that, you know, the very nature of rock is ridiculous, but it's fun. It doesn't mean you have to treat it lightly or, you know, be ashamed of what you're doing or, you know, take the piss out of yourselves.
In June 2003, the question of whether the band would be seen as lampooning the rock fraternity came to the fore when they played the Donington Festival. The comedy rock band Bad News had been jeered at the same festival in the 80s, yet the boys from Lowestoft managed to win the crowd over.
By the time the band did the Donington Festival, which is obviously, you know, a massive traditional rock event, but which has also kind of undergone its own development. You know, by that point it was called the Download Festival, so there was a hint of post-millennial kind of development going on there. And obviously, you know, it must have been in the back of the Darkness's minds that rock fans, you know, might have thought they were taking the piss and would literally throw piss at them in the form of bottles.
I think Donington worked for the Darkness because it's not that they're not pretending to be anything other than what they are, and I think their whole way of working, they're so tongue-in-cheek. Everything they do is tongue-in-cheek. Their lyrics are tongue-in-cheek. Their performances are tongue-in-cheek. If you've ever read an interview with them, you know that playing guitar solos makes your balls grow bigger. You know, that's a classic quote from Justin. I think it's because they are with the audience. You know, they're laughing with the audience. I think in the case of Bad News, it was at a time when they were ripping the piss out of what the audience was watching. You know, it was a badly timed joke, whereas the Darkness, people are having sort of seen Spinal Tap, having seen Bad News, people are used to that whole concept of ripping the piss and also pastiching all these great rock styles and putting them together. So I think people are more used to the idea.
The rock juggernaut that was the Darkness was now on a roll, and later that month the band released the single Growing On Me. It would be their first chart success.
The Growing On Me single reached number 11 in the UK charts, you know, obviously indicating that the band's star was very much on the rise. As Justin said, it was like having two number ones. Interestingly, the song is actually about sexually transmitted disease.
I think it's about warts, isn't it? Genital warts. And now, unfortunately, I can't play the song anymore without, you know, thinking of some kind of nasty clinic and thinking of Justin rubbing some talc onto something or other, you know? So it's kind of destroyed that song for me. It's still a good rock record, but I just think of warts or herpes or something not particularly pleasant when I hear it, so, yeah.
Justin seems to really enjoy giving songs fairly innocuous titles, but there's, you know, a whole world of sexual innuendo behind them. Or, you know, there's a song on the album which eventually emerged called Holding My Own. I'll leave you to work out what that one's about.
I mean, I think the subject matter of their songs is, you know, it shows how much fun they like having. They're making a joke with their lyrics as well as their music and performance. And, yeah, if it is about an STD, then that's fine.
While the Growing On Me single surged up the charts, the Darkness supported Deep Purple at the Birmingham NEC. Following dates with Whitesnake and Def Leppard, the band were clearly being accepted by the rock establishment, and in 2003 they would go on to perform with past masters Alice Cooper and Meatloaf.
First of all, what it says is it says that, do you know what, we were invited to do this tour by Def Leppard. We were invited to do this tour by Alice Cooper. Alice Cooper likes our music, so, you know, if you want to like our music, Alice Cooper thinks we're pretty cool. What do you reckon? All those bands invited them to tour with them. So what that's saying is, these are the Darkness, this is the Darkness, tell us what you think. So it was a big seal of approval by those reputable artists.
I think a lot of the bands like Deep Purple, Meatloaf, Def Leppard that are still filling stadiums even now are doing that because they're great bands, and I think they recognise that greatness in the Darkness, and being associated with them is, you know, a lot of these guys, if they're in their 40s and 50s even, making money out of simple rock songs, you know, they're not going to be taking themselves too seriously, and I think with that maturity they've reached that point where, you know, who would you like to tour with? If you were on tour, who would you rather be your support band? Would you like it to be another rock band, or would you like it to be the Darkness? You know, if you can tour with the Darkness, you're gonna do it. And I think, you know, I can guarantee every single one of those bands, Alice Cooper, Def Leppard, they're all going to have listened to the Darkness's record on their tour bus for the last year or two.
At the end of June, the Darkness continued their extremely hectic touring schedule by playing the major venue of the British festival circuit, Glastonbury. Playing in the morning to a typically hungover and uninterested crowd, they nevertheless managed to bring their inimitable humour and sound to the dazed masses.
Who Gives You Rock Before Breakfast was Justin's opening line as they stomped onto the Glastonbury stage, you know, in about 10:30 in the morning or whatever it was. But, you know, they were establishing their ability to make a grand entrance as well, because they arrived at the site by helicopter. You know, that's the stuff of, clearly the stuff of rock gods.
While the band played the summer festivals, their debut album was released. Permission to Land was a shot in the arm to the British rock scene and would become one of the biggest selling records of 2003.
The band actually recorded Permission to Land before they were signed. I think it was late 2002 when they actually recorded it in a frenzied 2-week period. Permission to Land is a great album, and it doesn't actually, as far as I can remember, have any fillers at all. Maybe because, you know, some of the singles have been just, you know, kind of played to death on the radio. I think, you know, two of my favourite songs, you know, the ones I would tend to listen to when putting the album on a bit more, are, you know, songs that never made a single, like Friday Night or Giving Up, which are fantastic songs. But, you know, the point is, this wasn't an album with some great singles and then, you know, a load of old toss.
Love on the Rocks with no ice, you know? Love on the Rocks with no ice. Listen to the words. Are they taking a mick? Is it just a good record? It's the old school rock record. But everyone was like, this is hilarious.
It's a listenable album. It's a sort of album you can listen to and enjoy many times. In the same sense as, I don't know, like the Tenacious D record. It's a funny record. The jokes are good, but the music is good enough that you can enjoy the music or the jokes or both.
In August, the Darkness played to their biggest audience yet. Supporting the pop star Robbie Williams at Knebworth may have seemed a strange pairing, but what looked risky on paper worked wonderfully on stage, and a whole new audience became aware of the band.
I think the two of them are like peas in a pod, really. Robbie Williams has got a slightly different formula, but he's still a very theatrical performer and an enjoyable performer to watch. Fantastic songs. I think Knebworth, in the same way as, I guess, Donington, it's one of those venues that if you're a rock band, you have to play. And I think the two of them together is no surprise at all, because, you know, Robbie wears face paints, Robbie wears crazy costumes. You know, the two go hand in hand.
The band were apparently divided pretty much 50-50 as to whether or not to play the Robbie Williams dates. But I'm sure they were finally glad they did, because I think it turned out to be one of the most significant things they ever did in terms of securing mainstream appeal.
I think the Robbie gig was fantastic for the Darkness. I mean, as you say, it really was, the band really were playing to those cool, underground, new, trendy places like the Barfly and the Camden, the Palace and all that kind of stuff. And then they got invited to play Robbie at Knebworth. Now, that was a bit of a gamble, not only for Robbie, not only for the audience, but also for the Darkness. Now, when you turn up to go see Robbie, you wouldn't really expect a band like that on before him. Now, they completely stole the show, and I think the 100,000 people in the crowd were also quite surprised with what they saw.